Hello, I'm Matthew Hopkinson from the local data company, and this is the retailer overview for what the local data company can provide to you as a retailer. Here we are on our website, and what I do is I log in, and it takes me to the login screen. It'll hold your details, and then I click through, and we come into a retailer overview. Now it knows who I am, and in this case it knows that I'm Superdrug. And what we've got down here is all the locations that we've updated over the last 30 days. But most importantly for me, I can see where I have a presence, i.e. in the case of Nuneaton. And what it tells me is the number of units Nuneaton has, but most importantly for me is its vacancy rate has increased, and therefore that could be impacting my sales. But most importantly, I can see up here that 87 locations have been visited by LDC in the last 30 days where I have a presence, and that's valuable information. So in some cases here, Chichester, the vacancy rate has gone down. If I wanted to then click through to here and say, well, I'm interested in Chichester, then I'm able to create analysis here. And if I wanted to start to understand about the mix and makeup of the area, I can click in and look at comparison goods only. And where you see the red, you can see that it's a vacant property. And you'll see that we've got images associated with all of our data. But most importantly, what's it telling me about Chichester? It's telling me about its vacancy rates, and you can see it's below average here right across the board. It can tell me the total number of vacant units. And then, as I showed you just now, I'm able to drill in. And if I want to be very specific here and look at, for example, electrical goods and home entertainment, I could go there. But actually, if I turned around and said, well, actually, I'm in the game of chemists, toiletries and health, I'm able to drill in and then say, well, let's have a look at who these guys are, and it pulls them down straight away. Where's the Holland and Barrett? There it is there on North Street. So you're able to constantly interact with the data, which is an excellent thing. The other thing is I may say, well, actually, I'm not interested in independents because I'm a chain, and therefore I click in here, it will just show me where the multiples are. This is a very useful tool if you're wanting to establish where prime is in a particular area by looking at various multiples within certain sectors, and multiples within fashion and general clothing would be one excellent way to establish where the prime is in a specific location. I'm also able to look at this classification mix, and this is very interesting in terms of telling me about the day-nighttime economy. And what you can see here is that there's a large proportion of comparison goods retailers, that's non-perishable goods, in Chichester, which means that it's actually going way against the national trend where we're seeing decline. But what we'll see in the next view is actually, has it started to catch up with the rest of the trend? Or is Chichester particularly geared to comparison goods and has a particularly wealthy profile to support that? Throughout all this, I'm able to download data, a location summary, which is all the data I've just shown you there, or actually download a list of occupiers. The second thing we'll go into then, we're sticking with Chichester, is you'll see here now that we start to spread in, and it starts to look at Chichester has a shopping centre, albeit a small one, and the high street is the retail core offer. But outside we've got a couple of retail parks. But if you were to go to a larger centre, a Birmingham, a Manchester, a Leeds, a Sheffield, you'll see a significant amount of out-of-town competition. And again, I can constantly interact with the data here, and it will start to show me changes when I'm looking at retail mix, or if I'm wanting to look at the independent multiple mix, or if I'm wanting to look at top retailer presence in a particular location. We then go along and start to look at occupancy. So this is analysing net change. And again, so what I want to do here is I want to go back into the whole of Chichester. And what you start to see, I alluded to comparison, is that actually at one stage, over half the offer in Chichester was comparison goods, which is amazingly high, but it started to come down. And you can see that when I look down to this table view here, that actually when I press net change, I start to see the percentages, and you can see that actually they're starting to catch up fairly quickly with a decline of 4.3% versus the national average, which is around about 1%. I can then go in and look at vacancy rates, and again it tracks it over time. Here's the shop vacancy rate. So what I can see is it's reached its peak and it's starting to come down. But you can see that actually at one point the vacancy rate was 13.3%, which is right up at the national average, whereas now it's come right down below it and stands at 8.6%. But if I want to include the leisure element, which is increasingly important, then I come up to the top here and see that it's 7.4%, and the leisure rate broken down here. Finally, how quickly is the duck paddling. This shows me the volume of opens and closures, so the total churn here. So you can see that actually 11 comparison goods retailers opened in Chichester, but 27 closed, so net loss of 11 units there. And if I want to drill into these specific opens and closures, then I can, and it tells me whether they're charity shops or whether they're closed shops, florists, etc., etc. So that is the key view that we provide to retailers in this tool at the moment with regard to analysing places. Very quickly it can tell you about the health of a place, it can tell you about the competition, and it can tell you about the pitch. The second thing I may want to go into is start saying, well actually if I am in fashion and general clothing, in this case, I may say, well I was looking at the southeast there, I want to know who my main competitors are. And what I'm able to do along the top here is see all the fascia and look at their change over time. And if I want to look at units or net change, then I can do that very quickly. And the colours bring it right out. Say green is good, red is decline, and actually sort of brown is no change. And I'm able then to look at this by towns as we go all the way through here. You can see what is going on. But again, if I thought, well, I'm just interested in Dorothy Perkins, if I click on the data, I can come through here and see very, very stable. And if I say, well, I'm interested to know about Brighton and Hove, then it'll tell me that there's one on the high street and one in the shopping centre. So I could very quickly ascertain what's going on. If I wanted to be more detailed on that, then what I'd do is I'd come back to that map view we had a minute ago, and I'd put in Dorothy Perkins here. And what it would do is it would immediately tell me it's part of the Arcadia group. I'll click in here, and then if I wanted to see where they are nationally, I could very quickly go across the board and see there's quite a lot. And you can see that actually there's significant net decline in the number of units they've got with 39 versus 3, and only 48% sit on the high street. So there are different ways to look at the data. Finally, I may say, well, I'm interested in looking at Dorothy Perkins, but what I want to do is look at Dorothy Perkins. I want to look at New Look. I want to also look at Superdry, and then finally I want to look at let's just say Crew Clothing. So I come into here, I click go, I can select up to 5, and very quickly it gives me a similar view and starts to show me a big difference between Dorothy Perkins, New Look, Superdry and Crew Clothing. But not just in that instance. If I want to look at New Look, I can start to see that actually they've got some growth on retail parks, but they haven't got it elsewhere. Now if I look at Dorothy Perkins, you can see this generic decline. And finally Superdry, I can see all the action is in the shopping centres. So that is the ability for you within the online tool here to look at competitors and to look at sectors and understand how people are moving, and therefore know your enemy as you know yourself. Finally, we have a number of reports here on the enterprise version that you can run. So if I wanted to create analysis against Dorothy Perkins, then what I could come into here is I could put the retailer in, and it would give me a full view of the locations that Dorothy Perkins are in. I would run it, and then what it would do, you'd start to see it appear in the reports view. As you can see here, it generates the report live, and then I can click through to it, but I won't do that for the purpose of this demonstration. But you can see here 6 reports. They're fairly explanatory, and there's always the eye icon to show you what it's all about, and we'd really encourage you to give us feedback as to what's happening. But that's really the overview for you as a retailer. We're able to tell you about the health of centres, we're able to tell you about your competitors, we're able to tell you about pitch. And with a number of retailers now, we're starting to integrate sales data, the business rates data, to start to look at the real cost of occupancy as well as the profitability of locations. But we welcome all feedback and would love to hear from you. But thank you very much for watching this video.